Good afternoon. Here's the place that we're all maybe missing going back to. Today is May 13th, 2020, and we will be doing Block 5, Topic 2, Lesson 3, where we're going to locate fractions on a number line, which is an important skill as you read a ruler or as you read a measuring tape, even sometimes when you use a measuring cup, being able to know what each one of those little marks actually stands for can come in very handy. I did want to point out to you while I have your attention this afternoon that you have an opportunity to pick up your personal items next week. Look in your Google Classroom, uh, your Wildcat Hour Google Classroom, the school's Twitter account, Instagram. There's emails for more information. They're going to have the 8th graders come through like the buses. You'll need to give your locker number, and then they'll hand things out to you. 7th graders will be the regular pickup drive, like you are dismissed in the afternoon. They'll get things out of your PE locker. They're trying to match all that stuff up. If you know you left something really important in a classroom at Westridge, you may want to email Mr. McDonald or Miss Collier or Miss Morris and let them know so they have a time to get that together. But next week, there's some opportunities for you to come pick up your stuff. So you may want to look into that, particularly if you left something important. All right, so this is kind of a strange way for me to keep track. But the times that you see here for Math 180 are what you did last week. So you were assigned to work 30 minutes on Math 180, but then it's been a couple weeks since I colored in lessons off my charts. And so those math lessons are from that time period since the last time I colored in. So that's been a couple of weeks. So really proud to note that Jay and Jakayla both have completed 4 lessons since the last time that I filled in that chart. And then we had 3 of you who completed 2 lessons, and that's fantastic. Remember, if you have any trouble with any of that, all you have to do is send me an email. We'll meet up on WebEx. You can share your screen with me, and I can help you through a success zone, directions you don't understand. Because a couple of times as I looked through this time, I saw some red ratings. So you can see that we had quite a bit of participation. This is what's interesting is Jakayla got 4 lessons but didn't have any time. So it's been a while since I colored in that, and I'm sorry about that. But also, as far as time goes, top one was Jocelyn. Woohoo, Jocelyn, 117 minutes. Sure would like to see you finish a lesson when you do that much time. Messiah had 97 minutes. Same thing, but we didn't get any lessons done. But see, we got Jordan, who had 79, finished 2. Celine finished 2. And in there, you might have done a success zone. So that, of course, wouldn't be represented. Micah finished a lesson in 57 minutes, and a lot of you are off to the right track this week. I've gotten a lot of emails that said, I did 23 minutes on the zones and 8 minutes on the brain arcade, or I did exactly 30 minutes, and I really want you to follow those directions when you see them. So let's move on to our lesson for today. So just like always, we'll review what we did before. And you'll remember in a previous lesson, we learned to compare fractions using a new strategy. We renamed each fraction with an equivalent fraction. Then we compared the 2 new fractions using the common denominator strategy. Because there'll be times when comparing to benchmarks or having a common numerator or a common denominator just doesn't happen. So you have to create fractions that have a common denominator. You do that by thinking about the multiples of the 2 denominators that you do have. In this case, we had 8 and 12. Thinking about those multiples and picking the smallest one that they have in common. This is called the least common multiple, and when we use it as denominators, it's also sometimes referred to as the least common denominator, and you'll hear LCM and LCD. Once we know what those are, then you have to stop and think, what do you need to multiply by to change that denominator to the new denominator? And whatever you need to multiply by for the denominator, you do the same thing for the numerator. Because that fraction, when you have the same numerator and the same denominator, as you know, equals 1. And anytime you multiply a value by 1, you may change the way that value looks, but you don't change what it represents. You don't change its value. Today we're going to work on locating fractions on a number line. We'll use what you know about finding equivalent fractions and comparing fractions to locate fractions on a number line. And again, this skill comes in very important when you're measuring, whether it's linear measure with a measuring tape or a ruler, or using some kind of measuring cup.
Locate fractions on a number line. Now that you have a good sense of equivalence, let's look at numbers on a number line. A number line is a line on which every point names one number and every number has a unique location. You can use a number line to visualize the order and sizes of numbers. Let's use a number line to locate the fractions 1/2, 7/4, and 9/8. Fractions less than 1 will be in the space between 0 and 1. To begin, I'll use fraction pieces to help me locate halves on a number line. I'll place a 1/2 piece above the number line. One end is at 0 and the other end is at 1/2. I'll make a mark and label it 1/2. Each labeled mark on the number line is called a tick mark. The label shows the tick mark's distance from 0. I'll place another 1/2 piece on the number line and label the tick mark 2/2, which you can see goes in the same place as 1. This makes sense because we already know that the fraction 2/2 is equal to 1. So we've found 1/2 and 2/2 on a number line. To show 1/2, you plot a point on the 1/2 tick mark. Next, we want to show 7/4. I'll lower the labels for 1/2 and 2/2 so we can make room for the fourths labels. I'll put a 1/4 piece above the number line. One end is at 0 and the other end is at 1/4. I'll make a tick mark and label it 1/4. I'll put another 1/4 piece on the number line and see that 2/4 are equal to 1/2. So I'll label the same tick mark 2/4 or 1/2. I'll put another 1/4 piece and write 3/4. And with another 1/4 piece, I write 4/4. Now we see that 1 is equal to both 4/4 and 2/2, but you probably already knew that. Notice that we can plot whole numbers and fractions on the same number line. 7/4 is greater than 1. To find 7/4 on a number line, we need to continue the number line beyond 1. So let's split the distance between 1 and 2 into 1/4 intervals. We used fraction pieces before, but you get the idea. Each interval is equal to 1/4 of the distance between 1 and 2. Now I'll plot a point to show 7/4. Look at 7/4 on the number line. We can rename 7/4 as the mixed number 1 and 3/4. Next, we need to find 9/8 on the number line. I'll move the 4th and 1/2 labels a little lower to make room for the 1/8. I'll also add labels for 3/2 and 4/2. 4/2 is the same as 2. I'll put a 1/8 piece on the number line and write 1/8 below. And I'll keep placing 1/8 pieces on the number line until I have placed 9 1/8 pieces and written their names below. And now I'll plot a point to show 9/8. We can see that 9/8 is 1/8 more than 8/8 or 1. So 9/8 is the same as 1 and 1/8. So we have plotted the 3 points we needed on our number line: 1/2, 7/4, and 9/8. Fractions on a number line are always in order from least to greatest. Using equivalent fractions helps us to plot fractions on a number line and keep them in order.
So let's take a look at number 1 here together. I think I can give you a few tips on this that may help you just a little bit. Because what I've noticed in the past is students get confused over counting what to count to know what the denominator is. So you want to actually count the spaces. And in order to do that, I like to number the tick marks. So if this is tick mark 0, this is tick mark 1, 2, 3, and 4. That means that between 0 and 1, this is divided into 4 parts. That means my denominator needs to be 4, and 4/4 would be 1 whole. I can come back and put the 4s underneath the others. But now I know that I have the correct denominator because this is divided into 1, 2, 3, 4 parts. So if 1 whole is 4/4, the next one would be 5/4. Then we'd get to 6/4, 7/4, and just for good measure, I'm going to put number 2 here as 8/4. The directions say to find 7/4. 7/4 is nearly 2, but not quite. And when I plot a point, I would put a dot on 7/4. And here's a prettier version. Now this one says 11/6 on the number line. And sometimes you can just, okay, well, if there's a 6 as the denominator, these ought to be 6. But it doesn't always work that way. So I suggest, again, counting from those tick marks. If this one's 0, then this one's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6, which gives me my denominator of 6. So this is divided into 6. 1 whole would be 6/6. I can come back and put the 6th underneath here. So then we'd have 7/6, 8/6, come on, 8. Yep. 9/6, 10/6, 11/6, and this one would be 12/6 because 12 divided by 6 is 2. So we're looking for 11/6, and we would put a dot right there. A prettier version. So let's try one more together. Give me just a second to change my screen. All right, so this is number 1 out of your book, and I just feel like this is a more important way for us to do it. I'm going to enlarge it so you can actually see those tick marks a little bit better. That makes it a little bit more challenging. You will probably need pencil and paper as you practice this on another site. So it says locate 7/4 on a number line. So I'm going to count these tick marks. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 4/4. This will be 3/4, 2/4, 1/4. Makes this 5/4, 6/4, and 7/4. That would be the place where I would want to do plot that one. All right, so again, I apologize for the directional thing here, but it just got in my way. Label on the number line 11/6. So if we count these, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That makes 1 whole 6/6. We can put the 6th underneath it. But we're looking for 11/6, 7/6, 8/6, 9/6, 10/6, 11/6, and then 2 would be 12/6. So if you have done this before and you're looking at 6 and you already know that 1 whole is 6/6, you could start from there and know that this is 7/6, 8/6, 9/6, 10/6, and 11/6. Or maybe you know that 2 is 12/6 and you just need to back up 1. The point is to plot the point in the right place. Being able to recognize these tick marks and know how to read them is an important skill for all types of measuring. So I hope you'll give this a shot and then do the quizzes. Your clue word, so that I know that you watched, is measure. And if you would please send that to me in a private comment, then I will know that you actually watched this video and can follow directions. Apparently that seems to be a little bit challenging these days. Hey, take care. We got one more week to go this week and one more. Be good.